Come on in and pull up a chair because today I am going to be sharing a how to play as well as reviewing the latest game from Sparkworks. So kick back, relax, and let's take a stroll down Penny Lane. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host. So, as I mentioned in the opening, I am going to share a bit of a how to play as well as review Penny Lane, which is from Sparkworks. It's an interesting little worker placement kind of engine building game that just came out. I believe it's just hitting stores. It was available at Gen Con. That's where I got my copy. I already did share an unboxing video, so kind of covered all the different contents for it back then. But now we're going to actually talk about how to play it as well as my review. So Penny Lane is from Sparkworks. It's designed by Justin Blasky and Mel Primus with artwork provided by Denise Martinez. The game is for 2 to 5 players, ages 14 and up. Plays in around 30 minutes. And it does carry an MSRP of $30. So let's move on over to the other camera. I've got this set up. This is not necessarily how you would set it up on your table. I have set it up this way so I can squeeze as much in on the actual tabletop here, so we can fit as much on the scene. Excuse me. Wow, it's super dry down here, dusty in the duct tape studios tonight. So anyway, as I mentioned, Penny Lane is a small footprint game. This is the Gilded Edition. So this actually has a few extra cards for our supply of different buildings available to us. So this is kind of like the collector's edition of Penny Lane. So we'll point out the rule book is pretty short, pretty to the point, and I am going to say this, and I hate to say this, but it's also pretty much a mess. This rule book is very, very short, and there is just way too much in the rule book that's kind of left up to the players to kind of decide for themselves. I will talk about a few of these things as I go through the how to play and share my final thoughts for it. Strangely enough, even though the rulebook is a mess, this is an interesting game. So hopefully we've been playing it correctly, because if not, I think we're going to be in trouble. So what you're going to do is you're going to actually set down the main street. So these bigger cards here will be the main street of your town. So what each of the players are going to be doing is they have their own lanes. So I have Lover's Lane as my lane that I'm using. And this is kind of our player board that we are going to track different items on, as well as actually place buildings along with. We're going to build our lane looking to achieve 10 victory points. So we have a victory point tracker up on top as well. This also shows us that if this area here is empty at the beginning of our upkeep, we will get a worker, meeple, an employee in essence. Also, it tells us during our upkeep, we will get a penny. These little copper colored pieces of cardboard are the pennies. So everybody's going to start off with a little star to place up here next to our tracker, because that's where we're going to track our victory points as we earn them. We also get 3 pennies as well. Now, we will not start with an employee. After our first turn, we will end up getting an employee. So this little meeple here, this is the mayor. So the first player is the mayor. So say, for an example, I'm the mayor here. Somebody actually has to take that away from me to become the first player. So I'm just keeping it there to kind of show it off a little bit. So we've got our main street that allows us to do different things that we are going to pay our pennies for. Also, once we have employees, we can place employees either in the barracks or in the temple. You'll notice that these have a certain number of spots. I have this set up for a 2 to 3 player game. Some of these cards are dual sided, where if you're playing 4 or 5 players, you would flip it over and actually have more spaces here. So, kind of give me an idea, the buildings that we have on Main Street are the Black Market. We can pay 3 to gain a building from the top of our supply deck. This is our supply deck right here. We have the Tower. Costs us 1 to swap the position of 2 buildings on our lane. We have the Bank, which has 2 spots here. You pay a penny to gain 2 pennies. And if you were the first person, that's what this little wheel kind of symbol here means you get something special. So you would actually gain an extra penny. Money is very important in this game, so are the employees. So we could also pay a penny to become the mayor, then become the first player on the next turn. I will flip, actually I did flip that back over. So we've got the Masons Guild. So you can spend pennies to build a building from the supply. This is our supply row. And if we are the first person on here, we will pay 1 penny less. We also have the Gazette. We can move a citizen into an open job. And if we happen to be the first person to do this, we actually will spend 1 fewer penny. Or I should say, we can actually move a second citizen for another penny. So these cost us 2. Then we got the barracks. Choose any lane, and you gain a penny for each of the stores, workshops, as well as I forget the title of them. I think they're attractions. So in the corner of the card, it's going to show you various different. Is it a home? Is it housing? Is it a store? Is it kind of a workshop? So we've got different kinds of buildings, and that's what's in the supply here. This is the supply deck. So we will have 5 different buildings available to us as we're playing. So as these are bought, we will also replace them from the supply here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit so you can get a little closer look at some of these buildings. I'm going to talk about the buildings a little bit, and then I will zoom back out and show you how to play. So let's get a little bit closer in here. So here, this is housing. So the first thing we're going to notice is it costs us a penny to buy this. It costs us a penny to buy the cottage, and it's going to show us some little aspects here. So we've got like a half a penny here, and we've got a half a victory point symbol here. What this means is if we line this up with another half penny or with a half victory point, then we either will get a penny or we will get a victory point. If you take a look at your lane, you will notice that here we have half pennies, here we have half victory points. Everybody's lane is going to be a little bit different, though. So we have Drury Lane, we've got Memory Lane, we have Lewis Lane, which I believe is probably supposed to be Lois Lane, but I don't know if they just spelt that wrong or they just didn't want to get in trouble with Warner Brothers. And then we have Slow Lane. Yep, life in the slow lane. So you'll notice each of these have a little bit of a different layout with these little halves. So we've got a half victory point, half penny, and so on. So when we're laying down buildings, our housing has to go in the lower portion of our cards, and the other buildings actually go above them. So when I zoom out and show you, it will be apparent. So to kind of give you an idea, let's see what we've got here. We've got the ballroom, right? So I've got the ballroom here, if I were to purchase the ballroom and then I put it up here, and I like how the artwork all kind of lines up when he put this stuff together. I thought it's kind of neat how it actually starts looking like you've got like a little neighborhood on your game table. But you see, I've completed that penny there. That would earn me a penny for doing so. A lot of these buildings will have special abilities, special things that they do. Some of them require us to have employees on them. So, another aspect I do want to point out is, as I mentioned, we're trying to get to 10 victory points. Once we get to 10 victory points, that will actually activate the end game scoring. But thing is, what wins the game is whoever's lane is worth the most victory points. So just because you get to 10 doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have the most valuable lane in the game. Once in a while, we did see that we had players who, activated, they kicked off the end scoring, but they didn't win. I'd say it's about half and half. So just to point that out right there. Other way for us to kind of activate the end of the game is if we have 5 or fewer cards left in our building supply, which to me is kind of silly, because how are you supposed to know if you've got 5 or fewer cards without always counting how many cards do we still have left once we start getting kind of low on these building cards? I thought that was kind of odd. I would have thought what you could do is just basically, if you're playing the standard edition with fewer of these cards, maybe you just subtract 5 of the cards, shuffle the deck up, and when you run out of cards in the deck, then you would activate your scoring. So I don't know. I mean, I just thought it was kind of strange that it's like, well, when there's 5 or fewer cards left, then that's going to activate the end. It's like, okay. So one of the things about the game, about the rules, are kind of head scratchers here. So kind of give you an idea of the different buildings. So as I mentioned, in the corner, it's going to show us what the building is. So this is a shop. It's got a little price tag on it. This has a hammer. This is kind of manufacturing. And then here, this is an attraction. And then for the cottage, it's actually down here showing its housing. So once again, this is indicating too that this goes down on the bottom row. These go on the top row. It's like here we also have a manor. So the manor shows that it is worth a victory point for every manufacturing location that is on your lane, on the street that you're, well, I guess we'll call it a street. So anyway, you're building your lane. So once again, as you can see here, if I had the cottage next to the manor, then I would be able to get an extra penny because I would have completed that there. So that's to kind of give you an idea of the different kinds of cards in the game. So I'm going to zoom back out a little bit. Yeah, it's a little too far. Let's zoom back in. There we go. Okay, so kind of give you an idea. So we're looking at, seems like we've got a lot of shadow here today. I don't know what's going on here. It's kind of weird. All right, so we're going to start off, and there's 2 phases basically to each of the turns. We've got our action phase, and then we've got our upkeep phase. So if you're familiar, it's strangely enough, one of the things that this kind of reminds me a little bit of is Everdell, as far as it's kind of asymmetrical as far as your turn. Each player's turn is not necessarily going to be the same. Everybody gets an opportunity to play into the main street. This is Main Street here during the action phase, or they pass. Once they pass, then that means they're finished with their turn. But if you've got pennies and things to do and your opponents have already passed, you can continue doing stuff. So it is a little asymmetrical as far as how you would play. So, kind of giving you an idea. And of course, each of the players are going to have their own little board like this. So let's say, as an example, I start off and I'm the first player, right? I'm the mayor. I get to be mayor right now. So I'm going to take a penny and I am going to gain a building from the supply right here, and I get to pay one less. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a cottage, just like so. I can put the cottage either down here on this side, or I could put it down here on this side. Doesn't really matter because I am not going to be able to complete either one of these special things here. But remember, there is a tower. I can swap things around as the game progresses. So I paid my one penny. Okay, so then let's say one of the other players says, oh, they want to be the mayor. So they're going to take that mayor token away from me. So that's going to be theirs. And then somebody else comes along and they're like, oh, okay. They're going to sit there and they're going to go to the bank and they're going to gain 3 pennies for their 1 penny. So then they get that. Then it's back to my turn and I'll say, okay, you know what? I'm going to need money too. So I'm going to put my penny in there. I'm going to get 2 pennies back. And then let's say the other players end up deciding, well, okay, they are going to pass. Because you don't want to be broke. Even though you're going to get 1 penny at the beginning of your upkeep, you want to be able to have a bit of money coming through. Whoops, forgot to refill that. Oh, the dormitory. So you'll also notice that we've got these little meeple employee symbols here, and they also show that they've got these victory point symbols. So basically this means this is worth 3 victory point symbols, or 3 victory points once you put these people to work. So to kind of give you an idea how this is going to operate then, is that we're in our upkeep, right? So we're going to get an employee here. I'm going to get an employee down there for my cottage as well. And the other player's they're going to go. So what I would end up doing, and here's another aspect of the game when you do your upkeep, is all the pennies go back to the bank. They all go back to the bank. Now, I do want to point out that there aren't a ton of these pennies. I did not play with 5 players. We played upwards of 4 players when we were playing Penny Lane. And I have to say, things got kind of tight with the pennies. Now, in the rule book, it does not tell us if the cash supply is unlimited and we should use something else to represent these, like maybe real pennies, or if this is the supply of cash. This is our like entire economy. Personally, I figured this is probably our entire economy, because that way it kind of prevented people from just sitting back and just keeping their cash, which is stupid, because you got to spend money to get these buildings and that to score victory points. But that's how I looked at it, was that once the supply is gone, then that's it. This is our supply of coinage in the realm. So anyway, let's say it would be my turn again. So now what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to try to get people to work. So now I've got 2 employees. My other opponents each at least have 1 employee. So now everybody's going to be starting to look at, okay, so what's going on with these buildings that are out here? Well, these are actually a little more expensive than we would probably like. But let's say the first player decides he's going to go or she's going to go, and they want to make sure that they go first again. But hey, now, actually, that's not right. Let's say the first player decides that they're going to pay 3 pennies. They're going to take the top building from their supply. And they ended up getting the luthier. So this building's links are worth double if both jobs are filled. So if we see this little area here where we have like little blank employee meeple symbols, that means those are jobs that need to be filled. So you're trying to get your employees to fill your jobs. So let's say they got the luthier. So they took care of that. So then let's say it's my turn again. I've got 4 pennies. I am probably going to look to get the stationers. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to go to the Masons Guild, and I get to pay 1 penny less to buy a building. So I get the stationers. I'm going to put that here. Now, if you notice, I have completed the penny here, so I get another penny. Woohoo! There we go. So that's the 3 pennies there. Look at this. I also completed a victory point. Ka-ching. So now I have 1 victory point because I had none. I just had the star sitting there. Then we replace this. So then we go back around. Let's say it's my turn again. And now I'm going to say, okay, so I'm going to go. Let's say somebody already went to the Gazette, right? So they paid 2 to move an employee onto an open job. So I end up paying my 2, and I take my worker here and move them into these stationers. And it says pay 1 less at the gazetteer if this job is filled. So I get to pay 1 less when I move someone into another job. So then I only have a penny left. I'm probably going to say, okay, you know what? I'm done. I will pass. Maybe the other players continue doing stuff. Maybe they get some buildings too. So maybe somebody buys the pet shop. And then maybe somebody buys the haunted house, which is kind of funny. It's worth a victory point for each adjacent building that has no citizens on them. So for an example, like if I were down here and I had this employee at a job, that would be worth a victory point because it's on this side. That's what it means by not having a citizen on them. So let's say somebody bought that. So there we go. Okay, then moving right along, then it would come back around again. Let's say it's my turn. I only have a penny. I get a penny for my upkeep. Everybody's paid. Everybody's pennies going back into the supply here. Somebody's got the first player. And then I now get, because this is empty, I now get a worker back, an employee back, and I got my penny already. So I gained my penny. So let's say it gets around to me, and I decide, well, you know what? I don't want to be blowing all my dough. So I'm going to take my turn, and I'm going to go to the bank. Let's say I'm the first person, and I get 3 pennies because I was the first one there. So now I've got, oh, well, look at this. Now I got 3 pennies from the bank. Comes back around. Oh, well, okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend, let's say somebody already went to the Gazette. And maybe they decided that they were going to put somebody in the barracks. Like so. So, let's say it got back to me. I'm sitting here. I got my 4 pennies. I know that if I go to the Gazette, or if I go to the Masons Guild, let's say I'm the first one to go to the Masons Guild, I could go and I could buy the bookshop. That would cost me 3 because I was the first one. I take the bookshop, and maybe I can put it, if I want, I could put it on this side here. Or I could put it on this side here. Like so. It's up to, it's however you want to do it. Of course, we will replace that building with another building. So let's say later on, I've got some stuff where it's like, wow, you know, I could actually get some more victory points in that if I could swap buildings around. I can pay a penny to go to the tower, and I could swap any 2 buildings. Well, I wouldn't swap like that. I'd swap like this, right? Something like that. Or if I had something on the other side, maybe I swap them around. the different sides. And one thing I do want to mention is once you have an employee in one of your shops or attractions or manufacturers, they stay there. You will keep that employee there. So once you've filled that, you get the little bonus that it'll usually give you as well. So, for an example, this bookshop is worth a victory point if I fill that job. So there we go. Boom. Able to do that. So, eventually what's going to happen is like when you go to your upkeep and you've got employees here on Main Street, these will go back to the supply. Those do not get returned to the player who used them. And of course, all of the pennies in the upkeep would be returned to the supply. So eventually you're going to get to the point where you've got all these different buildings. Let's see, we got this, right? Let's see, we got, let's get some houses or something here. There we go. We got a loft. And gain a penny if the citizen is employed. I thought that was kind of funny. So let's see, we got let's get another cottage over here. Like so. So eventually you're going to get to the point where you either have one of the players has gotten to 10 victory points, or you only have 5 or fewer cards left in your building supply. That's when you're going to go to your end game and you are going to total up the victory points on your cards. Now, the weird thing was, like for an example here, I've got the victory point that's connected. In the rules, it says you get these at the end of the game. But then I had also seen where people were saying, no, you get those as soon as you complete the link, because if you move things around, just not that you were probably, well, that actually does the same damn thing. But if you swap things around and we broke, like, say, for an example, this didn't exist, we no longer have that little victory point symbol being connected, we would supposedly lose a victory point. So, once again, this is another aspect of the rules where it's kind of like, so which is it? So, do you get the victory point when you complete it? Or do you get the victory point at the end of the game? So, we were actually playing it that you got the victory point when you completed it, because that kind of sped the game along to get to our 10 victory points. I can't tell you if I'm right or wrong. I'll just tell you how we were putting this together. So, overall, once, like I said, once you either have somebody's got 10 victory points or you've got 5 or fewer cards left, that activates the end game, which is basically the game is over. Now you score. There's no, okay, everybody gets to finish up and do a turn. Effectively, you just end that turn at that point, we think. So, although, to be honest with you, should basically be that once somebody has 10 victory points, everybody gets to finish up that turn and see what they can do with what they've got left. So anyway, so that is pretty much how you play Penny Lane. So, what do I think? As I mentioned, the rules are a mess. They really are. And the thing is, I don't care if you've got, and I know people are like, well, there's always, FAQs and things like that online. You can go check those out. And a lot of times there's rules updates and stuff like that. And I get that. I completely understand that. That's why I don't give games a massive ding on their review score when their rule books are kind of iffy, because I understand that. One thing with this is there are some unanswered questions that people have that are still floating out there after a few weeks about this game on Board Game Geek. That's not good. So, like I said, in the rule book, there's quite a bit that's kind of left up in the air that we kind of came up with our own little home rules for house rules for. That said, I actually like the game. So, at least the way we were playing it, I like the game. For all I know, we're playing it wrong. And it's like, I don't like those rules the way those are. But yeah, we actually did get a kick out of it. The game moves pretty quick. Um, like I said, I didn't play it with 5 players. I played it with 2, and it was kind of, yeah, it was all right with 2. Played with 3, we played with 4. With 3 or 4 players is where I think it really is at. That's where you get the most out of the game, because then you're kind of screwing the other players out of getting locations to put their money down, or maybe place a worker up in the barracks. So I kind of like that. The component quality is nice. The cards are very nice finish to them. They should hold up to a lot of play. It's a $30 game. I have seen it as low as about $21 online for some online retailers. So that's a really, really smoking deal. Even at $30, it's got a lot of gameplay to it. The only thing is, like I said, can't be positive if we're playing the game right or not. So anyway, on a scale of 1 to 10, I actually give it a 7.6 out of 10. If the rules could get ironed out, could probably get it about maybe another point higher, because like I said, we do like the game if we're playing it correctly, which I don't know if we are or not. So there you have it. That is my how to play and review of Penny Lane from Sparkworks. Anyway, please join me Mondays through Friday right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central as I host the Daily Dope, which is a look at all the tabletop gaming news of the day. And of course, don't forget to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. By now, you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. If you like the video, give it a quick thumbs up. If you like the channel, please subscribe. Don't forget, ring that little bell, because it will tell you not only when I upload new videos, I'll also tell you when the stream goes live Mondays through Fridays. So I will be back, and until then, happy trails. If you're ready for some more fun and you'd like to check out the latest episode of The Daily Dope, my live Monday through Friday show that airs at 7 p.m. Central right here on YouTube, click right here. And if you'd like to roll the dice and push your luck and see a randomly selected video from the channel, click right here. You pays your money, you takes your chances. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and thank you for watching.